What's up, YouTube? Caleb Eubanks here. Good music choice. What you're listening to in the background is Kings of Leon. The song is called The Face. It's a really good song. It's off their 2010 album, Come Around Sundown. I think I've talked about this before. Anyway, I'm going to do another wrestling DVD review. Earlier today, I watched a DVD that I have. I don't have the case for it, so can't really show it. I have the DVD from years ago, late 90s. And that is Bret Hart, Wrestling with Shadows. One of the most celebrated wrestling DVDs there is out on the market. It truly is a gem when it comes to wrestling and at its finest, and basically tells the whole story of the end of Bret Hart's career with the WF, transitioning into the WCW, and eventually what would be the Montreal Screwjob. Now, first and foremost, before I go into detail about what the documentary featured and what it was about and some of the scenes and stuff like that, I want to say this. I don't have much detail about the actual production of it, if it was supposed to be a documentary or what, but okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of beef on it, but I have to say it. It seems very rehearsed. The documentary in general seems like it's a wrestling documentary. It seems like Bret Hart kind of was given this camera crew to follow him around and document what would lead up to the Montreal Screwjob. There's a lot of parts in there where you see Bret saying things, but you don't see Vince McMahon saying things. But anyway, the documentary starts out talking about, you know, him growing up and stuff like that, and his father, who was a wrestler for the WF, and you know, his brothers, you know, the British Bulldog, you know, all the people who were in the Hart family just epitomized wrestling. And I loved that part of the documentary where it went into detail about who his brother was, who his brothers were, and who his father was. And, you know, his father was the one who really taught him about wrestling. It's really cool to see him with his kids and his wife. You can tell from the very beginning of the DVD that Hitman is not just a character. He's adored by fans because he's real. His character that he portrayed a lot, you know, the loving, caring Hitman Hart, you know, standing up for yourself persona that he had with his Bret the Hitman Hart character, is really what shows in his family too. He's a very loyal person to his family. You know, his wife, who was not this drop-dead gorgeous lady, he, you know, and he's around all these female superstar divas and stuff like that. He could have had his probably pick of the pack when it came to you know, what woman he wanted to be with, but he's very loyal. His wife's a very genuine and beautiful person on the inside and the out, in my opinion, and his kids are too. And, you know, it shows him playing video games with his kids, him, you know, being himself on the video game and stuff like that. What's really weird about this documentary, though, like I said before, is it comes off kind of rehearsed. Like Bret is, you know, around the corner being told what to say, and then comes back into the room and says what he needs to say. You know, the Montreal Screwjob part of the documentary aside, the actual story of Bret Hart and where he came from and his origins into wrestling is really, really interesting. And, you know, he wasn't even intending on being a wrestler. You know, his father was a wrestler who, you know, got into it to basically just for quick cash, and was only going to be in the business for 2 years, but then ended up staying and practically producing one of the biggest, you know, legacy families there is in professional wrestling entertainment. You know, I believe it was 96 or 97 when this happened during the Montreal Screwjob. It basically goes into detail about that and about the whole plan. Basically, the story is that Bret Hart was offered a contract from WCW for was it $9 million? I can't remember if it was $9 million or $19 million. Somebody can comment below. I'm sure they will and tell me what it is. By the WCW. He was then offered a counteroffer from Vince McMahon for a 19-year contract. The money was not disclosed how much he was going to be getting, but it was kind of basically symbolizing that he could finish off his career there and he was going to have security. And any wrestling fan knows, and that any wrestler who they're a fan of is, security is big time in a wrestler's, needs, because they're putting their body out on the line every day for fans, and not making a lot of money. Wrestlers do not make as much money as people think. They're well off, but they're considered to what football players make, and basketball players, and hockey players, and those kind of athletes make. It's not even in comparison. But yeah, he's offered a 19-year contract by Vince McMahon. He decides to turn down the WCW contract and stay with WF. And from that point on, the story takes a weird turn. As you know, during the Attitude Era at that time, Vince McMahon really pins Bret Hart's character against Shawn Michaels and makes Bret Hart kind of look like the bad guy, per se. Hating on America and stuff like that. And he really lost a lot of fans during that time, but he also gained a lot too during that time whenever he started the whole Canada versus United States rivalry. That's a really cool time in wrestling, and in my opinion, that's when the Attitude Era started, right during the middle of the border wars, as you could call it. The TV wars is part of it too, but it goes before that, in my opinion. Basically, Bret gets a call from Vince McMahon throughout the DVD saying that he can't afford him. He can't keep him here, and it's kind of virtue over necessity, or necessity over virtue. I'm sorry, and he has to either work out a new contract or he has to get rid of him. And Bret Hart did not want to leave the WF. He did not want to go to the WCW because he had been with the WF for 14 years. You know what I'm saying? That's his whole career. He wanted to finish off his career with the WF. He even stated that all throughout the documentary, and even to this day he states that. It was never his intention to go to the WCW. Honestly, in my opinion, Bret Hart belonged in the WCW because of his character, and what the WCW was doing at that time with Goldberg and with Hogan and Sting and all those people, man. It was really cool, and I think Bret would have fit in well with that. Vince has always been, in my opinion, the New York Yankees of pro wrestling. You want to go there because the money's good and you're going to win, but it costs you an arm and a leg, and you go through too much bullcrap. He's the George Steinbrenner of professional wrestling. Anyway, he sets up a deal with Vince McMahon, and they agree on him not losing the belt in his last match in Montreal in his hometown, because he decides that he is going to go to the WCW. The WCW kept its word on the deal and decided to even offer him the deal after he declined it the first time. He takes the offer and, basically has 2 or 3 matches left, and the last one is in Montreal, and it's supposed to be kind of a standstill between him and Shawn Michaels. And basically nobody was supposed to win. At the end, a whole bunch of people were supposed to come out during the middle of the sharpshooter that Shawn Michaels had on Bret Hart. Bret Hart was supposed to turn it around, pull the sharpshooter on Shawn Michaels, and everybody was supposed to rush in to the ring and kind of split it up, and it was supposed to turn into this whole big ordeal. Obviously, as many wrestling fans know, that's a classic moment in wrestling history, whether it's ECW, WCW, WWF, the Nitro days, the Raw days, all that combined, that's a classic moment. The Montreal Screwjob. Basically, Brett states in the DVD that Vince McMahon he could hear Vince McMahon saying "ring the bell" when the sharpshooter was being put on him. So Shawn Michaels put sharpshooter on him. The referee calls to ring the bell. They ring the bell, and it's over. And Shawn Michaels wins the match. And what's really crazy about it is you see Bret Hart spit on Vince McMahon right in the face. And, you know, that's one of the reasons why I also think it was kind of rehearsed a little bit. You know, to this day, Bret Hart claims he did not know anything about it. I don't believe that. I don't believe that one bit. You know, the people who were involved during that time with the match were, you know, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, who then was, you know, Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And at the end of the DVD, you can see Bret Hart's wife just berating Triple H, Hunter at the time, and Shawn Michaels, and everybody who was involved during that match, saying that, you know, it's basically bullcrap, they didn't know about it, and that it was going to happen, and you all knew about it, and, you know, karma is karma, and it's going to come back to get you. But that's basically what happens. Brett left the WF, and Vince and him had a very standoff relationship after that. They didn't speak to each other for a number of years, according to Brett and Vince. But, you know, was the Montreal Screwjob rehearsed? I don't know. I really don't, because there's so much evidence going to either side of the table on it. There's a lot of things in that documentary that point to it being rehearsed, and then there's a lot of things in that documentary that point to it being absolutely real. The emotion in that thing, it looks 100% real. But my thing is this: why in the world, up to a year before the Montreal Screwjob, would this documentary be walking around filming Bret Hart for any random reason? Documentaries were not big at that time on wrestling. You know, you didn't have just documentary people making DVDs of wrestling superstars at that time and just following them around. It did not happen. So, you know, I'd like to know your opinion on it. My opinion is I don't really have one. It's just a great moment in wrestling history, an epic moment. I wouldn't say great, but an epic moment in wrestling history. And it should be, you know, talked about and discussed. So, it's my review of the DVD. It's a great DVD. It's kind of, you know, well known throughout the wrestling DVD community and stuff like that. But it's definitely worth the buy, and it's worth checking out, even if you're not going to buy it. They have it on Netflix also, and that's a cool place to go check it out too. But I recommend, if you have the chance to get it on DVD, get it on DVD, because that's a nice little thing to own. But yeah, you know, I want to know what you think of the Montreal Screwjob. I want to know whether you think it was rehearsed, whether it wasn't rehearsed, whether Triple H knew about it, Hunter Hearst Helmsley at the time knew about it, whether Bret Hart even knew about it. I just want to know what you think, because it's hard for me to develop opinion on it because there's so much evidence going to both sides of it. I'm Caleb Eubanks. This has been Good Music Choice. See y'all later.